I'm not particularly caught up in my wording on exactly which line it goes into, but the substance, I'm saying, is the Sodom Road Bridge fee of $6,000 be added to 4313 to bring that to a new total of 12,500.
I'll second that.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
And am I right, Karen, that 6,000 is what he wants to?
That's what I remember too. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need me anymore. I'll just sit over there.
Yeah.
Sure.
I get nervous
So
with
it's
bigger.
been
It
seconded.
usually means I'm in
Was it
trouble.
seconded by Bill? I'm sorry.
It was.
Okay.
Are we ready to vote?
We are.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Nice job, guys.
So now we can direct our office to contact HEB and
Yes.
put an RFP out on the
Yes.
street.
Good.
Yeah.
Good job.
We done that?
Any other warrant articles? Revenue. Can we move over revenue or?
Was there an issue with revenue?
I can't think of it. Well, just that it was open-ended, right?
Oh, I know, it's because we voted it and Bill was away.
Yes.
You snuck it in while I wasn't here,
Well, no,
right?
you told us to sneak it in.
I did not. You
You
said
did.
we were gonna do it this week. All right. So I do have a couple of questions,
Go
all
ahead.
right?
Yep.
We're just going through. We've got $30,000 in there for boat revenue, all right? Which is $4,500 more than we got last year. And, you know, the trend has been up, but not by a lot. 2015, it was 23, 2016, it was 23, 2017, it was 25.7. So I'm thinking that unless we have a strong feeling that there are going to be a lot of people registering new boats this year and newer boats, that's a little strong for that revenue estimate.
I just got it here. Oh, 30,000.
Yeah.
What's your proposal?
25.
Okay. Any other changes?
Let's see. I wonder if we're counting milfoil reimbursement twice in here. And
That actually came up at the budget meeting.
Wasn't one for the rental of the boats and one for
we
the
don't rent boats. Well,
Revenue from other
Revenue.
government, the $600, isn't that Wolfboro pays us something or
no,
somebody? pays
that's,
us something?
no. We pay $600 a year to the intermunicipal agreement, to the milfoil joint board. That doesn't come to us. That's expense, and it's
So the only revenue coming to us is from?
state rebate
State rebates or-
on work that's done,
Okay.
right?
Is that a grant?
It is a reimbursement grant.
And how much is that?
Well, we don't have it yet. I had an email the other day that she expects that she'll have it put together before the end of this month. In the past several years, it's been 25% of what we spend. And
In dollars?
so,
What would that be?
you know, we could, I'd have to look at what we budgeted and say a quarter of that this year. I don't have that in front of me in terms of what we budgeted for milfoil control.
For some reason I remember 28.
Milfoil control expense.
Yeah, maybe.
Behind the budget or something.
So, and I apologize, I don't have that.
Because
I have the whole one here, so maybe I can find
Because
it.
that's where we,
Because on the 2850 line, the fines, rebates, miscellaneous revenue, and milfoil, most of that is the rebate from the co-op.
right.
So if there's additional milfoil money, I mean, I don't mind taking the $600 out of the first line,
Well,
as
it may,
long as it
right,
is accurate on the second.
right.
The other thing is that twice during the year, DRA updates this for us, in case we don't spend money for milfoil, or in case there's a windfall. A couple of years, we had $175,000 come back in land change taxes.
Bill, did you want this?
How much
Did you want the budget from that?
Yeah, yeah. At,
That's next year's budget.
yeah. And so,
Or this
yeah.
year, I should say.
Yeah, that's 24.5, and all of that is, I don't have the detail in front of me, that's,
You want to work on this?
yeah, no,
You know,
I can get the backup doc.
I support what you folks do, and don't overestimate revenues. You know, the legislature and the county does this all the time, and that's when they get
Yeah.
in trouble.
Well, and
we
should we,
shouldn't lowball it, but
Right.
we ought to make it as accurate an expectation as we can, and
and you brought up the notion of the fee for motor vehicles that would go into a paving fund. That would have to go into the revenue side of this.
Right.
Right.
But that would mean a warrant article, and
Right.
I don't think it's, I'm not ready to move forward this year.
mhm.
I do think the budget committee would be interested. There are some unique funding out there. It's like grants to CIP that they investigate.
Okay. So you want to adjust the revenue estimate downwards by $5,000? Bill?
Yep,
Is that a motion?
so moved.
Second? Any further discussion? Are you ready to vote?
Well, let's just think, one last time I'll ask the budget director or chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Shall we bring the $50,000 health insurance trust to the budget committee? Because if we're not going to, we're gonna take it off of here as well.
I would be in a better position to answer that after our February 6th
Okay,
meeting.
so I'm ready to vote.
Well, I have no problem with you making a presentation. That's the place for it.
Yeah, that's fine, I just wanna have the revenue numbers right.
Right.
And then
Yep.
if we're not gonna do it, we're gonna take that out of there.
Yep.
But, okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable saying that mine will probably change.
Okay.
Well, it's a topic of conversation,
It is.
and that's where the debate needs to be.
Yeah, so let's talk about it then.
So the subtotal with Bill's motion would be revenue of $1,582,475. And that's
Yeah.
changing it by $5,000. Okay. Yeah.
You ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next is review and approval of minutes. I'll start with Friday, January 5, Selectmen's work session. A nice job, Karen, especially the way you highlight the warrant articles. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have nothing.
I'm okay as well.
I'll move approval as presented.
All those in favor, second? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes 3-0. Next is Friday, January 12th, Selectmen's work session. I have nothing.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Okay, go ahead.
All right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next is Monday, January 8th, Selectmen's meeting. I have nothing.
Looks good to me. I'll
Yeah.
move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Next is non-public meetings, January 8th. I have no changes.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Hold on.
Go ahead, take your time.
It's gonna be
Here you go.
floating around, it's gonna say chip on, up on the
Oh,
top.
okay. Let me just put it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
And I will move that they remain sealed.
Do we need to remove? If they're sealed, they stay sealed?
They are sealed and.
Yeah, I think we're fine. I don't think we need to vote on it.
Oh, okay, all right.
So we have so few of these non-publics these days. It's
Yeah.
hard to remember.
Right.
Yep.
Let's move on to new business. I have none, but
We still haven't addressed the tax map update issue. And are we gonna do it this year, or are we gonna wait till next year?
I've been working on that, so,
Have you?
yeah.
Okay.
I've been working with Avatar, Mark Howard, and there's actually and Sue Weeks, quite a bit more to it than we expected, so. But the long story short, I hope to have a quote for you pretty shortly. I was able to get Avatar the information they needed to now be able to present us.
Do you think you'll have it in time for us to present it to the budget committee before town meeting?
I can check.
Okay.
Yep. And it'll be a couple different ways. It'll be to work from an updated database on a yearly basis and just what the cost would be for that, as well as them to go retroactively back to 2010. Because I thought Mark Howard already had done the changes, he has not.
Okay.
Not saying he's not willing, but there will be a quote to see what that cost would be.
and if he's gonna work on it, he really should be reimbursed like Sue is, correct?
That's up to you,
I mean, in my mind.
Well, they're doing two different things.
Yeah, two different kinds of
Yeah.
projects. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
Yeah, I'm not opposed to moving it off to 2019's budget, but I think we need to work on getting it together.
Right,
So,
right. No, we need to, and I know Karen has been chasing this information, we need to understand what has to happen and what the impact is, and then make some decisions in terms of moving forward, and not just say, well, we'll deal with it next year, because it's not.
And maybe parts of it we can do without a
By
warrant
segments,
article
yes.
this year. And
I-
then put together a.
I remember back when you were a selectman, you talked about it before the budget committee, but back then it was in excess of $250,000 because the technology has changed since then.
Yeah, yeah. That was back before the interweb.
Yeah.
I still took phone calls, not as email stuff.
Anything under continued business? I have nothing.
We're good.
Selectmen's update?
Oh, did you just
Whoop,
speak?
excuse me, I went over signature file, I apologize. Let me go back to it. First item to be signed, notice to intent to cut timber, tax map 62-1-5.
Move approval.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'll give it back. I only need it for two things.
Next is right of burial. This is a purchase by, for section CR lots 6-1. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is for Met dash lot 15-1-9. This is for Brian and Linda Palmer. Is this veterans credit?
Yep.
Mr. Palmer meets the criteria. I recommend granting the $500 all veterans tax credit. Karen?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item is yield tax levy for map 16-1-7 for $1,299.23 in timber tax.
Move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think it's not an insignificant amount of money that we collect in timber tax. So I might want to rethink this bill.
Every little bit helps.
It does, and as I said earlier, one of the benefits to the whole process is the governing body is aware of what's going on in town, and while as property owners you have pretty broad latitude to use your own land, it also is important on things like clear cutting and that sort of thing.
Well, after you commented on that, I know with my involvement over the years, the forester has actually educated probably about 10 or 12 different landowners on the proper way of doing it, so.
Yeah, and it's just another set of eyes that
Yes.
helps everything move forward in a way that's beneficial not only to the landowner, but
Also,
to the town.
Caleb Pike reads these things because now if there's a brush fire someplace, he knows that you can go in behind the dump rather than, going off of another road. This is notice of appointment to Thomas Young to the office of boat permit agent.
I'll move approval.
Term expires December 31st of this year.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Along the same line, David Ladd, boat permit agent for December, until December 31st of this year.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. And just as a reminder to everybody, using the local agents in town to renew your boat registrations as opposed to sending them in directly to the state brings an agency fee to the town as revenue that if you renew them by mail to the state, goes directly to the state.
And it doesn't cost you any more.
It doesn't cost you any more, but it's like a couple of bucks out of that registration ends up in the town coffers as opposed to in the state coffers. So you don't pay any more for it. It just keeps a little more money at home.
New business we did, continued business we did. Selectmen's update. You want to address this?
Yeah, I had brought up the subject of dedicating this year's town report to Mary Craig, who served as town clerk for
35 years.
35 years and has just recently passed away.
Yep.
I think it'll be a nice tribute.
Yeah, I agree. Good idea.
Do we need to vote on it, or is it consensus?
We can vote. Let's make it official. I'll move that we dedicate this year's town report to Mary Craig.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Could you pass that down to Karen? That's what has to go back. Selectmen's update. Do you folks have anything?
Come back.
I want to highlight tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock is the first meeting of the Old Home Days Committee for this year. The committee and the organizers are always looking for additional people to step up and get involved in helping to put the events together and sort of oversee what's going on. So, right here in this room, 7 o'clock tomorrow.
Either square.
Yep.
You got anything?
I'm good. I'm good. Do you want me to write this warrant article for the cemetery? I don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Karen,
Yes.
I read in the minutes of the recreation meeting that there's something with lifeguard, a course being taught or something. Can you
That's a little slap at me because I didn't go to the meeting.
Can you check if, what the status is?
Of a
I
class, of a
also-
lifeguard class?
Yeah, I also read in the newspaper that the recreation director in Wolfboro had a conversation with the selectmen about us combining resources, because we have had trouble getting lifeguards. Could you check with Gina what the status of that meeting was?
Okay, and is that the Wolfboro one?
Yes, I read this in the newspaper that the recreation director from Wolfboro was talking to the selectmen about combining resources.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And have you received a copy yet of the minutes from the Conservation Commission? Today is 5 days, and it's 5 business days.
No.
Okay, would you double check on that, please?
Mhm.
Thank you. That's all I have under Selectmen's update. Anything else?
No.
Are we ready for correspondence? January 13th, a letter from a Martha Porter that saw our ad about abandoning cemeteries. And Sue has a copy of it. We have a copy of,
And while we're on that, it wasn't clear to me if what her concern was. She is a direct descendant of people in 2 of the local cemeteries, and so I'm not sure if she is writing to say she does not want to see those cemeteries declared abandoned, or if
I didn't see that either.
if she's just writing because,
what about sending her a letter of acknowledging, and if she has any questions, have her contact us, and
I think that makes sense.
out of courtesy, letting her know.
Yeah, yeah. Again, if, my view is if we have a descendant that is opposed to the abandonment of a particular cemetery, the RSA is pretty clear that you just leave it as it is and not go bowling ahead.
Right. I'll continue. Police Department computers has already been talked about with the police department. You also had a memo from Karen about Diane and Outlook, and Tom has advised that it be replaced with Office 2010. The cost would be $230 to $240. Do we want to okay the order of this project?
Yes. My opinion, we do.
Okay. Do we need a vote, or just tell her to go do it? Have you?
Yeah, I don't know that we need a vote. Do we need a vote?
No.
I don't think we do.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
sometimes you just have to let.
Yes. Also dealing with computers is, this is from Tom Albert, reference Wi-Fi. Karen, do you want to address it?
Yes, this comes from the cemetery trustees meeting with you folks that day about wanting to be able to use internet for town business. And Bill and I have spoken about this, what was that thing called, that it could be a whole separate network, and different ways that you can provide access to people. I forget what it was called, some kind of wall garden or something was, but nonetheless, Tom suggested a guest network on our existing network. for town volunteers to use the wireless internet, and he felt that's the best secure way to do it. And then my next question would be, if you do approve that, is it just for people doing town business, or is it for any member of the public?
And so I think we're still sort of at a information gathering on this.
Well, he responded, but he didn't agree with the wall garden.
What do other towns around us do you know? Or I can ask this at a TAC meeting.
Yeah.
You know?
It's,
Why don't we table it and we'll
Yeah.
talk it at our next meeting?
yeah,
All right.
This is this is from Doug Smithwood, reference solar projects. Remember the Selectmen 2 years ago had a meeting about funding. There was an energy committee. A couple of members would like to talk to us. Have you read the?
I have, yeah.
Have you read it?
yeah.
Yeah, and I also was looking at, I forget the name of the newspaper that I was reading, but it was about energy projects in the Northeast, New England, New York. And I think it's the town of Ackworth that just put a solar plant in that pretty much powers the whole town.
Town of Durham's done the same thing.
But Ackworth's a town with 2,400 people.
Yes.
Which is a lot more like Tuftonboro.
Yes,
Durham.
Than Durham is, yeah.
And it'd be interesting to figure out how they did it and how it's set up. I mean, I think that would be a,
Well, and I know we looked at this community solar issue a couple of years ago. And at that time, the barrier was that there's no provision in the law or regulation in the state of New Hampshire to do community solar. So that's sort of like, the whole idea is, can we find a place to put up a solar array that can then be used for low to moderate income to provide power to people of limited means at a savings. But the law doesn't allow that currently. So it's what he's saying in here is that there's that the co-op has funding eligibility for this. I think it's worth looking at again, but I'm not aware that the law's changed, which was the big barrier there. In other words, community solar, in its most basic, you find a location that is has good solar exposure and is big enough, and you put an array there, and then it doesn't matter where it is, you generate power there, and someplace else on the co-op's power network can draw power from that against what you're putting it up at the central location, so you don't have to have the array where you're using it.
right, I don't think there's any way to connect every house in town to your solar array.
No, that's why you have to have a provision in the law and regulation that says, that people that subscribe, you can put the array someplace else, and just like any other generator that's on the grid, you draw your power from that, but there has to be a legal mechanism that allows that to happen.
Mr. Chairman, you have less than 20 minutes left. If there's anything important you want on the tape, please mention it now.
Okay.
Longer tape.
That's right.
Okay. On that, one of the things that Clay suggested is his putting up collectors where
On the landfill.
on the landfill.
Right.
No, that's an unproductive space and
Right.
and whatever.
And it would be an obvious location for it, but.
And other towns have done that. But that's kind of early to be talking about that.
Yeah, but I think it's fun to talk about.
Yeah,
Do you want him invited to a meeting or in the future, or
Sure. I have no.
past this
What are your
budget
thoughts?
season and stuff?
if you want to forward that email to me, I'll be happy to chat with him some more.
Okay, thank you.
On it and see what we can get set up.
And we'll go by your
Yeah,
recommendation.
that's all right.
This is from Chris Fournier, reference Sodom Road Bridge repair design, and it's a sample request for proposal. You folks have read it, and it's a work, and we kind of decided what we were gonna do.
Yeah.
On January 18th, we got just a news release about the municipal bond bank and what their rates are. And that's for June 5th. I know that one. Sometimes that comes up.
What's the bond rate currently?
It's 2%.
For 5 years, 2%, 10 years, 2.16%, 15 years not available, and 20 years, 2.86%.
Which is why people go to the bond bank, but again, the cost to open the door is substantial. So if you're borrowing a lot of money, you make it up on the reduced rate, and it's also less flexibility.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, that's our current bond rate, which means we're probably AAA. If you're borrowing enough money,
Right.
there's actually a sales benefit to it, because you'll get part of that sales back in the form of a bonus if it sells at a particular rate. So you could actually make up all your expenses, but it doesn't work on $1 million, it only works
No.
over 10,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
15.
There's
So
a
let's
guy-
borrow lots of money. Then we can-
Yeah,
I watched you.
go broke saving money, right?
What you did with the nursing home.
Yeah, well, that was easy.
This is just something I want to read into the record. State supply propane update, maybe it will help some of our citizens. This is from two Primex members from Homeland Security Emergency Management. Over the recent record cold spell, oil and gas providers were stretched thin as demand for fuel was up as much as 45%. At that time, supply was not a problem. Any delays in customer deliveries were due to not enough drivers and trucks. Although the drivers were working as many hours as they could physically handle, keeping up with the commitment was challenging. Although the record cold is behind us, the region is still feeling the effects of a brief propane shortage. This shortage has been caused by a number of compounding factors. Vendors contract for propane 1 year in advance, and the propane is delivered by ship and rail to various terminals. Due to the record cold, there was a 30% increase in demand this season. A train bridge washed out in last week's rain event, therefore impacting rail deliveries with a very large detour. 3, winter and bad weather delaying ships getting into ports. Because of these factors, propane is extremely low right now. Vendors are only receiving 1/3 to 1/2 of their normal amounts. We've confirmed that a ship is arriving in Portsmouth